denies that. What I added on to that is that in order for you to be conscious, you need to be alive.
Yeah,
Yes?
yeah,
And in
fair
order
enough.
for you to be alive, your vital organs are necessary.
Yes. Correct.
Sorry, the functioning of your vital organs need to be there.
Okay.
Because if any of your vital organs stop functioning, yes, regardless of whether your brain, your heart, or whatever it is,
But are you
all
talk-
of this, they work together in order for you to remain alive.
But are you talking conscious as in awake, or consciousness as
Alive.
in your sense of
Yeah,
self?
alive. If you're alive, then you're conscious.
Not
But,
necessarily,
okay, but
how-
answer
how-
the question.
Ian,
Answer the
consciousness.
Your degree of consciousness might differ when you're in a vegetative state, as you are, for example, if you're not in that state, maybe you're I don't know. Sometimes it's very different. The reason those people are kept alive for many years is because they have the hope that one day this person will gain full consciousness. Yes? So that's why we don't call them dead, we call them alive still. The reason they're kept alive, and it might be through an artificial, I don't know, system that they're kept alive, not necessarily the way you and I would be functioning if we are not in that state.
Yeah.
Okay? So my point is very clear. The first point which I asked him, which he was unable to answer, is do you have empirical evidence for your consciousness? Okay? So you cannot go to a lab, you cannot go to a lab and you can check under a microscope, oh look, here's a brain, I can see my consciousness in there.
Can I ask you a
No
question?
scientist
though?
will
Can
say
I
that.
ask you a question though? You're arguing with so much certainty about something so uncertain, and I just want to know where that comes from. Like, where is the certainty that comes from?
Certainty about what?
You saying that the consciousness purely resides, you're only in your body, but it cannot be only in your brain. Is that what you're saying? Is that the final argument?
Yes, it could be other parts of the body.
Okay.
It doesn't have to necessarily be only in the brain.
Yes, but my question is, your certainty.
The battery is finished? Okay, leave it, it's all right.
My point is, you have so much certainty about such an uncertain topic, and I want to know where that certainty comes from.
Okay, the reason the certainty comes from is because I do not only believe in the naturalistic world, I believe in the metaphysical world as well.
Okay.
So as a Muslim, I believe,
We were just talking
as a
about-
Muslim, I believe that we have a soul,
Yes.
yes, and this soul is something which plays an important role for our consciousness. It's not just the brain. So when the soul exits your body when you die, then obviously you're dead, and then
We were just talking while you were chatting. We were just talking.
Yeah.
We were thinking about consciousness and what is consciousness. I mean, I would define it as in before you're conscious of being anything, you're conscious of being, right?
sorry, say again.
Before you're conscious of being anything, a man living in London, age, whatever, you're conscious of being. It's your
You're
I am.
conscious of being.
You're conscious
Being,
of
as
being.
in I am.
So before
I
you're,
exist.
Before you're
I am
conscious
here.
of being anything, you're conscious.
Oh yeah,
of
I
being.
am. Therefore, I
I-
exist.
I-
Exactly. So you're
Who was that
conscious-
guy who said that? Philosopher.
you're conscious of being. So that sense of
This card-
that essence of being, that essence of I am alive. Right?
Yeah.
Before you're conscious
Yeah,
of
that's
being
awareness. That's what I said.
anything. And we were just talking about where we might think that that sense of self, where it is. And there's an idea that it could be outside of us. You know, that it's not actually within us, but it's outside of us. I mean, and then how far outside of us? It could be a meter outside of us. It could be our aura, our energy.
aura,
It might not actually be inside of us. It's that sense.
Look,
essence
that's the
that
thing,
you're
it's a- it's a
alive.
possibility.
all that is metaphysical, which
Yeah.
we cannot have evidence
That's
for.
the way I would
Precisely.
see it.
And that
I
was,
said I would see it on a
and you see,
metaphysical-
my friend, that was the whole argument I was having with this guy,
Okay.
because he only believes in the naturalistic world.
Yeah,
He doesn't
absolutely.
believe.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought in consciousness
And
is
he's very
because
close to the
is
argument
because
too. He wasn't really awake to it.
consciousness is such a good example for a person who doesn't believe
you have a lot of-
in a metaphysical world. Yes, but yet
No,
they
Is that
accept
really-
it.
is
The
that really
reason is
necessary? Another one. Mate, is the fifth one actually necessary?
It's for
they got
each
so many
single-
cameras.
each single
It's like a
camera.
press conference.
Yeah, man, we're gonna go viral. How you doing?
So that is the reason I'm saying
you're
it.
coming
This is
from
a
a
good
metaphysical
example.
place
Yeah,
then.
exactly.
That's the
exactly.
point you
Yeah.
were making.
So the example of this gentleman here, Greg, yes, it's like a person
He was close to the idea
who's
of
using a
anything.
metal
Yeah.
detector in order for him to identify plastic. He's using the wrong tool. He's using the tool of science which has limited scope for something that is metaphysical in nature,
I think he was
like
actually
your
wrong-
consciousness.
Fair point. That's a very fair point.
I think he was actually wrong about Einstein too, because I read once Einstein was asked about whether the universe was chaotic, and he answered, "God doesn't make mistakes." And when you've got, and I read the Stephen Hawking book, A Brief History of Time, and it's a great book. And in that they do talk about God, scientists, because when they're accepting there was a starting point of creation, they're accepting a creator, so they're accepting God.
But the definition of a creator varies from.
Well, absolutely. I mean, God's just a word. It could be infinite.
Yeah, so
wisdom, it could be the universe,
his
it could be
idea of
anything.
God was not
It's just a loaded
so
word.
he was making the assertion that Einstein did not believe in a personal God but a pantheistic God.
Yeah.
So in other words,
creator.
he's like
creator.
he's
God's just a
he's
word,
a theist. He's not an atheist. He's still a theist. If you believe in a pantheistic God, you're a theist. You're not an atheist.
God's just a word. I mean, I could replace the word God.
Yeah,
with
there's
a number
different
of
concepts of
infinite
God, you're
wisdom,
right.
Source energy, the universe. Yeah. So people get so hung up on the word God, but when you're accepting that, the Big Bang Theory, a starting point of creation, you are accepting a creator. The only opposing view would be if time and space always was.
Yeah,
There was no starting point. Absolutely, but they don't believe that's science. Science have accepted this idea of the Big Bang Theory, so they are accepting a creator of sorts. Right?
And when the reason he didn't bring the Big Bang Theory is that because we know that the
It
Big
isn't
Bang
being recorded anymore, is it? Or?
that's fine, yeah.
Oh, okay.
As long as you guys are okay with that.
Yeah.
So the Big Bang Theory is something which is the most accepted model of the origin of the universe. Okay. The reason he actually didn't want to bring that up is because you know that it has a start, and obviously anything that is limited in scope, like the universe, it has an end as well. Because
Must do.
yeah. So what he did was he actually did this. He actually brought in a model which is the least accepted among the scientists, which is called the cyclic universe. That means it expands and collapses, for which there is no evidence. So there is no evidence that once a universe collapses, it starts a cycle again. There's no evidence. So this is just something which is It's more like a guess, as at best. Yes, not even a postulation with evidence, because when you postulate a theory, you need to substantiate it. The reason many people actually bring this in is because they know that God is eternal, so they have to bring in something eternal to counter it. And what they do, they bring in the least, the least
Skeptical.
accepted model for the origin of the universe, which is this cyclic universe. So anyone who has read about the cyclic universe, they would know that what entropy is something. Because of entropy, the cycles become bigger and bigger. Yes, and what that means is that at one point, these cycles were much smaller as you go back in time. It goes to a point where it says there was a beginning of the cycle. That means it's not eternal. So even from that perspective, yes, if he had done his homework, he would know that. He didn't even know the meaning of entropy when I asked him the first time. He said heat or something like that.
Was he a scientist? Or?
He says he's into physics. But these are all things which you learn in basic physics.
It's a hobby, a pastime.
Whatever it is. He said he was better than Newton.
That's what he said?
Yeah, that's what he said. So this is ego. When your ego plays in, then it clouds your judgment. And this is what happens. Unfortunately, when you actually start saying things like, I'm a better scientist, or I know more than Newton. No, he wasn't. He was pretty serious about it. What he was.
It was just tongue in cheek. It was a bit.
Yeah. No, he wasn't. He was pretty serious about it, because what he was saying is that since Newton died, we have had many discoveries. So we know a lot more things than Newton. Obviously, you would, but no one would compare Newton, not being a scientist or not being a great scientist, and saying I'm better than Newton. I mean, this is just ego, if you ask me.
No, but
So
from his perspective, he might be though.
he might be what?
Like from his perspective, he might be better.
Well, from his perspective, he could be like 10
Exactly,
feet tall.
yeah.
You know, that doesn't make it true.
Yeah, but that's what we consider reality, because reality is in a way subjective, because
Reality is not subjective. Who told you that?
in a way it is.
What do you mean in a way?
I will explain to you how it is.
Are you real for? Are you for real?
No, but there is a possibility that we could be in a simulation. But is it more probable? Probably not, because there's not really much evidence to say
Yeah,
that
but
there is.
where is what do you mean not much evidence? There is zero evidence that you could just be a figment of my imagination.
There's a possibility. It's a
No,
possibility.
it's not a possibility even.
But how do you know?
How would you say, on what basis would you say there's a possibility?
Well, wouldn't you agree that all things are equally possible?
No. No. There are certain things which are observable facts. You cannot deny
Maybe
that.
in, do
Otherwise,
you believe in
otherwise,
other dimensions? Do you believe in
okay.
other dimensions?
Do
or
you
not?
believe that the earth could be flat?
Do you believe in other dimensions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so then all the possibilities must be equally equal.
Not
in
all
order-
the possible. What do you mean all possible?
I mean,
Do you think it's
why-
possible for the earth to be flat?
How is that relevant?
No, but we
You
know
said
that
everything
now.
is possible.
Well, we know that
Maybe
we
in
have
some dimension.
So
but
you
my
could be
point
a
is-
flat earther. I'm speaking to.
Well,
See what I mean?
If we're talking about reality, what
No,
is
you need
reality?
to. You need
What
to
is
look.
truth?
You need to.
Define
You need to
truth.
accept one thing.
Define
There are
truth.
things which are real, and there are things which are unreal. Okay.
But how do you define that?
How do you
Very-
define real or
it's
unreal?
very simple. I mean, if you do not, then what is the point of us even talking if things are unreal?
Well, that's the whole
But
point.
you
What is
wouldn't
real?
That's
know.
the
You
whole
wouldn't
point.
know
What is
though.
real?
Would you know if?
Then
it
you're far. If you guys don't even know your existence, then you are far removed from your
What
reality
is
of this
real?
world.
Define real. What do you think is real?
Well,
What
anything,
is real?
anything which you can perceive as
Okay.
being factual. For example,
So,
if
can
I were to ask
Can
you,
I ask you a question? Do you know of the experiment with the hand? Do you know that experiment?
Yeah.
Where they pull a
Yeah.
fake hand. Right. Which you're